Hello everyone, this is another heretic, or Brother Nathan, whichever you prefer. Makes no difference to me. Alright, this is a follow-up upon a follow-up upon a follow-up. We should all be able to change our minds when we are presented with new information. And I'd like to ask a question, and then I'd like to make a confession. And then we'll try to answer that question. So the question is, which Charlie Kirk are you? We have all these people in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death saying, I am Charlie Kirk. I am also Charlie Kirk. Which Charlie Kirk are you? I will try to explain why that question is relevant in a moment and give some thoughts on it. But first, I have somewhat of a confession and some repentance to make. I had said that Charlie Kirk was confused and demented because he was a rabid Zionist and statist, someone who wanted to play the political game. But I said he was demented because he supported the genocide. Now, as far as I understand, if in fact he did not denounce the genocide or even begin to question the genocide, that would be true. But I have come upon some information that I did not have before, which means I was speaking at least somewhat out of ignorance. I no longer think that Charlie was confused. I no longer think that he was necessarily even demented. Charlie's career began at a very young age, and he soon began to get massive support. He started Turning Point USA and willfully and successfully made a career playing party politics. He was on the red team, the conservative right wing of the turkey vulture, which is feasting on the corpse of liberty and decency. He chose to enter politics and play party politics. Now, I'm more than happy to play politics, but I'm not going to pick any side because I understand that both sides are satanic, pedophile, Luciferian, shape-shifting bastards. Okay, I understand that. But I'm willing to debate with you in the political sphere, and I'm also willing to try to come up with alternative solutions to government and party politics. Charlie was willing to work within the system to reform the system. Okay, that's really my largest complaint against Charlie, is that he was willing to play games, stupid games. And as the saying goes, when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It's not to say that his assassination and death isn't tragic, And it's not to say that I don't have empathy and that I mourn his loss. I do. But when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You reap what you sow. All of that being said, I've come across some information that I was not privy to. And my understanding has broadened. I have more light and clarity on the situation. So, when he started Turning Point USA, he was taking money from Zionists. He was being funded by wealthy Zionist elites. And so his message immediately became captured. And being that he was probably raised in a standard, stereotypical Christian household, it's likely that he already had a support for Zionism in his heart before that. So of course he's going to take their money. But you fast forward and we have issues like the Epstein case. We have issues like October 7th and the rapid and disproportionate response of Israel. And you have people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. They get maligned and ostracized and pushed to the edge of this new movement within conservatism to make America great and to have a more America first policy. Okay? And for all of its trappings, I can certainly understand and would much rather prefer an America First policy than whatever the fuck we have going on now, which is definitely being captured by satanic pedophile elites. Or you could just say Zionism. So Charlie, in the wake of all of this, he sees that his very young and in tune constituency is more in line with people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Charlie, as I said in other analysis, began to hand the mic off to people like Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson and let them express their growing anti-Zionist views and concerns for the genocide. That alone would have put a target on his back. So for all of his faults, and despite the multitude of disagreements I have with Charlie, I was able to see that he was at least willing to give those people a platform. Then I find out that he had begun to demand a release for all of the Epstein files. Whereas before, I had only been aware of his dismissal of it. I remember him saying on his show that he's not going to talk about it anymore. He's going to table that discussion for now because there were bigger fish to fry, because there was more things that were successful with the Trump administration than unsuccessful, and he viewed that the Epstein debacle was really a distraction from all those successes, okay? And I thought he was a piece of shit for doing that. But come to find out, he had been advocating for a push for a release of all the Epstein files. He had begun to question whether or not Epstein was a Mossad agent, or was at least open to discussing the possibility of it. And I had learned that he had begun asking questions about the October 7th narrative, which is a definite line that you don't cross with the Zionists. Because once you start asking questions about that, then you're a step or two or three away from coming to the conclusion that it's a genocide, that it was an inside job, much like 9/11. Then come to find out, with reporting from the Gray Zone, and Jimmy Dore also covered it on his podcast, as did Tim Dillon, and I'm sure others as well. But then come to find out that behind the scenes, Charlie had been receiving multiple text messages from his Zionist donors expressing their disapproval of his questions. I've even heard that Netanyahu himself personally called Charlie to offer money to Turning Point USA, which, come to find out, Charlie had denied. So, is Charlie as demented and confused as I had previously claimed? Apparently not. So I need to walk those statements back and issue an apology. Had Charlie Kirk not been assassinated, I suspect, rather confidently, that he would have become a figure more along the lines of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Dave Smith. Who, mind you, I still disagree a lot with Dave Smith and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. But they are at least willing to decry the genocide and call out Zionism. And for that, I am eternally grateful, and I can work together with them on that. So all of that being said, let me return to the question I asked at the beginning. Which Charlie Kirk are you? And the reason I asked that question is because the right still has this narrative that the shooter was a hateful, progressive liberal with weird fetishes who killed Charlie because Charlie was pro-life, quote unquote, a misogynist, racist, bigot. But then there's the Charlie who started to open himself up more and more and more to the Zionist propaganda and the Zionist plot. It seems like a lot of his constituency, as I said, were ahead of him on that issue and were praying for him to begin to ask stronger questions and to actually look into the issue. And it seems like he actually started to do that, which is why I believe someone in the Zionist milieu pulled some strings to have him taken out. And the narrative that many conservatives are running with, which is that he was killed by a liberal progressive with weird sexual fetishes, that seems to be the psyop. So which Charlie Kirk are you? Are you the Charlie Kirk who is investigating, seeking truth, and beginning to ask those forbidden questions? Or are you the Charlie Kirk who's going to continue to play the party politics game and fall for the PSYOP narrative, which distracts you from the fact that someone within the Zionist regime pulled some strings to have him taken out? If I were to be a Charlie Kirk, I'd rather be the Charlie Kirk who started to ask questions and who paid with his life dearly for it than to be the Charlie Kirk who continues to parrot wicked, satanic, Zionist propaganda points in service to an evil and corrupt political party. I think that, again, to reiterate, had Charlie Kirk not been assassinated, I feel like he would have joined the likes of Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Dave Smith, and etc. So that's it. That's my question. Which Charlie Kirk are you? The one who's going to continue to play the party politics game? Or the one who's going to start asking questions and follow the facts where they lead? Unfortunately, as with all things, the PSYOP only serves to deepen the divide. The Zionists are still losing the propaganda fight, but for now, it seems like the assassination of Charlie Kirk is still serving their political purpose. Let's hope and pray that it's not for long. It's always darkest before the dawn. But the dawn is upon us. We just have to be patient. We have to be wise. We have to admit when we're wrong. We have to look for allies wherever we can. There's a man who I met who I'm going to be working alongside, and we're probably anywhere from 95 to 98% aligned in our worldview. So it's that small percentage where we have to agree to disagree. And the reason that is because the time is at hand. We have to start coming up with alternatives. We have to start coming up with better solutions than what the political parasites are giving us. We have to avoid the mistakes that Charlie made. And we have to speak out, not when it's advantageous and not when it's too late. We have to be speaking out well ahead of time. We have to be ahead of the PSYOP. We have to be ahead of it all. And that's the only way to succeed. So, moving forward, I'm going to try my best to work with people despite agreements to push the alternative cause forward. We cannot continue working divided. I've learned a lot of difficult lessons through all of this. In a way, a lot of good has come out of it, despite how tragic it is. If you're not willing to admit that you're wrong, then you're not willing to learn, and you're not willing to progress. You're not willing to do anything positive. And I'm making a lot of positive changes in my life. I'm not going to go into details at this moment, but suffice it to say that I've never felt more hopeful. I've never felt more focused. despite the reality of the situation, it is still very dark. It's still very bleak. We're still in a very bad spot. But I'm a little more gray-pilled, whereas before I was black-pilled. But I feel like if we can just put our talents and our resources together, we can come up with good, healthy alternatives, and we can get the truth out there a lot more. Part of the truth, though, is recognizing the fact that Charlie he chose to play the game, and that's what happens when you choose to play that game. But part of it is also realizing that he was a human being who was in a tough spot. He put himself in that tough spot, but I believe he was beginning to come out, and that's why I believe that they killed him. So I've said everything I need to say for now. I've said it 2, 3, 4 times now in so many different ways, but I hope that you guys understand where I'm coming from. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah, have a good day. Stay alert.